Okay, so let's just talk about race here. and uh, Race and the GOP. And let me just go into depth, okay? Because it's easy for people to throw out that the GOP is racist, their policies are racist, they're bad guys, blah, blah, blah. Let me say, first of all, I like the GOP. I don't have a problem with them, okay? I have worked with many people within the Republican Party. A lot of my beliefs, conservative beliefs, come from, my religious beliefs and my faith. So uh, I align a lot with the Republican base, I would say, right? So let me just start there because so everyone knows, I am not a Democrat. I've never been a Democrat. Um, I'm not even a Republican right now. I align more with the base conservative movement because of my faith, but I'm not a Republican either. I'm an independent, a pure independent, and I go by the issues. There are issues that are important to me, and I look at which politician is supporting what I want and which ones are opposed, and I go from there. I don't make a judgment on every politician totally on who they are based off of one issue or two issues or even all of the issues. I don't make any judgments on them at all as a whole. I just look at their actions, I look at what they're doing, and I decide if whether or not they're good for me in the moment or not. And I don't carry that over any further. I don't carry any kind of loyalty or anything like that. I don't have that in me. So, with that said, let's get into detail here. So, there is this saying in American politics that says all politics are local. And that's true. All right. And when you think about local politics, you're thinking about communities. And the black communities in America are not the same as the white communities. And they're not the same as the Vietnamese communities or the Latino communities. Okay. I mean, even here in South Florida, we have LGBTQ communities. Okay. That's the best way to explain it. I'm not saying that everyone who lives in these communities are a part of the LGBTQ community, but what I will say is everyone who lives in those communities, if they're not personally a part of it, then they are 100% okay with it. They don't have a problem with the LGBTQ plus community, right? And so all these communities are different. And because politics are local, all of us, if we're doing this right and if we're doing it effectively, we're voting based upon what it is locally that is good for us. Okay. And so, you can see different politicians are reflecting their communities. And when you look at the two parties, the reason why there aren't that many black politicians in the GOP is because black communities tend to only be supported by the Democratic Party. What do I mean by that? So, in politics, in national politics, in order to become a national politician the normal way, especially when you're talking about all politics are local, you have to go up through the ranks, which means you have to be on the community level within community boards. You have to be an activist. You have to be involved within your community. And once you do that, then you can move your way up, right? To a state level and then to the federal level, the national level. But the entire way through, what you're doing is you're representing the community you're from and you know the issues of that community. And so what happens is the GOP just doesn't get involved with black communities at all on a local level. I'm not saying there aren't some places where the GOP is active. I had somebody on Facebook saying Westchester County in New York that there are thousands of black Republicans and the GOP supports them. Okay, I understand that. But that's the one off. Okay. If the GOP were active like that in every single black community, then you would see tons of black politicians on a national level. Common sense, right? That's how it works. And so right there is where it starts. Right there is where the GOP has a problem, okay, with the number of black politicians on a national level within their party. And that problem is stemming from their inability to connect to black people on a community level. All right. Let's get that straight. And so what ends up happening is since they're only active in white communities mainly, and they may be active in some Latino or Asian communities, but they're mainly active in white communities. Since that's the case, they are representing the interests of the white communities that they are involved in. And unfortunately, in American politics, right, because this is historical, we have we have this situation where if it's not if it's not good for white America, then that automatically means it's good for blacks or everyone else, or vice versa. If it's good for black America, then it's bad for white America. Like this is, and then the parties break down along those lines, and it's very dysfunctional. And it's hard to change this dynamic because the only way to change it is on the local level. And the GOP just does not do that. And so when I say their policies are inherently racist, what I mean by that is that, and they may not realize this, but their hyper focus on win at all cost for the white communities that they represent tends to hurt black communities. Okay, on a community level. Why? Because when you start breaking down things on a community level, you start getting into tax bases, you start getting into building codes, you start getting into enforcement of the police. Okay, and when that happens, the GOP on a local level is going to support the police who are treating white communities, the communities they represent, really, really well. And on top of that, they feel comfortable when they see the police policing black communities very harshly. That makes white communities feel safer, especially in areas where you have crime adjacent to a white community where there are a lot of minorities. Okay. And so that's sort of how these policies become inherently racist. It's not because they are racist. It's just because when you start breaking it down on a community level, it becomes white versus black because these communities are besides each other. And on that level, the white people in those communities are looking out for themselves, and rightfully so. That's the way it works. All politics are local, right? But in looking out for themselves and having this win at all cost attitude, they automatically implement policies that are hurting their neighbors, the black people next door in the communities next to them. Okay. And what comes from that is the Democratic Party coming in and talking to these black communities who, from their perspective, are being abused by their white neighbors, by the white police. This is how it's viewed. Okay. Because there's these communities are bumping heads, they're challenging each other, right? And so the Democrats are able to get loyalty from black communities instantly because the black communities on a community level don't have representation from the white communities next door. That's what's happening. That's where the breakdown is happening on a fundamental level. And so let's stick to this idea. And you see how I'm doing this right now, right? So I had a Facebook person. I'm not gonna say they were a follower, but someone commented on something I was covering recently, and they sent me a private message, a woman, and it was long, and she went into how I swallow like this, and she was saying, "That's disgusting. You're swallowing snot out of your nose down your throat, and you're a disgusting person." And I don't like to tell people my private business, but she was so disgusting that I kind of had to reveal to her why I swallow like this, right? I swallow like this because I have extensive nerve damage throughout my face and my neck and my head area. Okay. I have metal plates and titanium screws all throughout my face. I had serious reconstructive surgery, and that caught the nerve damage just causes it so that when I speak a lot, the muscles in my throat and in my mouth get very weak. My face starts to go numb. My lips start to go numb the more I speak. And so it becomes hard for me to swallow. And that's why I swallow that way. I'm not swallowing through my nose. I'm just swallowing normally, but it's so hard to do because of the nerve damage. And that nerve damage is not of my own doing. Okay. And this is a part of policing here. And this is a part of politics being local. So when I was a young man, I was attacked at a gas station when I was getting gas. And it wasn't from black kids who did it. It was a group of white guys. Okay. They tried to rob me. It was a failed robbery, but they were able to attack me from behind. and hit me with a gun, pistol whipped me from behind in the side of my face. It crushed my orbital, crushed a lot of bones here. I was almost killed. And it's caused permanent nerve damage. And that's fine, that's life, okay? But the part where this hits on the policing part and all politics are local is that the local police department never investigated it. They actually blamed me. They said that I did something that made these white guys attack me, but I did nothing. And when I went to get the security tapes to prove my innocence, the gas station deleted the security tapes and the police didn't care. Okay. I eventually sorted it all out and everything was fine or whatever. I guess I'm still dealing with it. But it's one of those scenarios that taught me a lesson about policing in America. It taught me early on that the police are not here to protect me at all. Okay. Um, and on top of that, they're not here to investigate crimes against me. It doesn't matter how heinous they are. It doesn't matter how innocent I am. Because I'm black, I don't have the right to get the same protection from the police who I pay taxes to that white people get. And that's just the truth. That's the truth I have to live with. I can lie to myself and say, no, 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 they're here to protect me. But I have a face full of metal that tells me otherwise. Okay. And those people who attacked me, they're living life just fine. And they've probably hurt other people, right? They've probably been hurting other people. And nobody cares. The police don't care. They feel like they did their job in making it seem like I was at fault and making sure these white guys were set that never had to see justice, never had to be investigated. The police never felt for 1 second that their community was in danger by allowing a group of white guys to brutally try to kill black people. They just didn't feel like that was a problem. In their mind, that was a good thing. From their perspective, it was, well, one last black man to deal with. Okay. And that's fine. I understand that. But that's the world we live in. And people can say otherwise. But like I say, I have a face full of metal. I have nerve damage. It's hard for me to swallow and speak to this day due to that. And like I said, they never investigated, right? And they never will. And they don't care to do it. And I'm fine with that. I've been fine with that forever. But because of that, right? When I went on to work in a think tank in Washington, D.C., when I deal with different political issues, like I know, okay, that the police are not here to help me. I know this. I know that if it comes down to it, if it's going to be me or a white person, they're always going to choose the white person. It doesn't matter how innocent I am. It's just the reality. And that's just how it goes. But with that said, if I were to try to change this, if I were to try to go into the Republican Party and tell them, hey, I want to be a politician in the GOP, and one of the things I want to do is I want to, help make policing better so that everyone gets protected by the police regardless of their race, right? If I tried to do that in the GOP, they would rump me out. They would say to me, oh, you want to defund the police? You're nothing but a leftist. You don't want any cops. You're a friend of George Soros. This is what they'll tell me. And it doesn't matter how much I explain to them, no, you don't understand. Like, we do have a policing problem. We have a policing problem when it comes to race, that police don't view black people as the same as white people. If I were to say that, they'd get even more mad. Okay. And what's worse is this. When they try to implement their policies when it comes to police, the GOP, all they care about is hurting as many black people as possible, putting as many black people in jail, especially black men in jail as possible. Now it's Latinos, right? For them, they want to stay inside of their gated communities, and they want to pay police to terrorize minority communities every day of our lives. Because for white communities, that keeps them safe. That keeps people like me away from their neighborhoods because they view me as a threat. This is just the truth. Okay. And so when you get into politics, it's really hard for a black man, especially, but it's black women too. It's really hard for a black person to climb up the ranks within the GOP, holding on to reality, holding on to the reality of what it's like to be a black person in America, to be a minority in America. Because if you try to speak truth, your own life experience, they run you out of there. If you try to tell them, hey, these policies you're implementing, it's going to hurt people of my same race, they're going to call you a racist. They're going to run you out of there. Okay. So that's why there are so few black people representing the GOP on a national level. Because in order to get to that top of the mountain on a national level, you've got to come up through the local level. And if you're coming up through the local level and you're trying to tell the truth, they're going to run you out. And so you have to lie. You have to pretend like, hey, when the police are policing, they see all people the same way. They're colorblind. When they see a black suspect, it's the same as a white suspect, no difference. If they see a white man fighting a black man, they're going to see the two as the same. They're not going to see the skin color at all. Like you have to, and that's every single cop. Like this is the mentality you have to have if you're black in the GOP. On top of that, you have to agree with all their policies, whether they're good for the black community or not. Okay, so you have to, if you're a black politician in the GOP, you have to agree with the white politicians who have never lived in a black community in their lives. You have to agree with them on all of their policies. If you disagree on one, they run you out of there. And the reason why is because there are so few black people, number one, within the GOP, but number two, when you're in there, because there's so few, you stand out. And so if you're already standing out. So if you add to that opinions that differ from white leadership who have never been in a black community before, if you do that, you're toast. They're not going to support you. Okay, so this is why there are so few black politicians in the GOP. And what they don't realize is that they're doing this to themselves. The reason why there aren't that many black politicians is because the GOP does not care about interacting with black communities on the community level. They want nothing to do with black communities. Nothing. Now, they will reach out to Haitian communities. You'll see the last time Trump ran for office, for president, they did a really good job reaching out to Haitian Americans, Jamaican Americans. They reach out to all these different subgroups and they reach out to them through business associations and stuff like that. They will do that. Okay. And so that's the white GOP meeting up with the elite crust of a sub community within the black community. And they think that's black community outreach. That's as far as they will go. That's not enough. Because guess what? The Haitian elite in Miami, they don't represent the entire black community in Miami. They just don't. So what ends up happening here is you end up in a spot where it's like two ships crossing in the night. Okay. You have people like me who lean more conservative, but at the end of the day, we aren't seen within the GOP. We can't fit in because people like me are going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell the world, well, this is what's happened to me. When I swallow like this on camera, it's because I've got nerve damage, and that nerve damage came because white guys attacked me, and the police didn't help, and they never did anything. And what's worse, when I went to the hospital, they kicked me out. I needed surgery. I was about to lose my eye, and they kicked me out. Yeah, when they kicked me out, the guy who worked at the front desk, I was barely conscious, and he was like, "Hey, you've got a hospital bill. I see your wallet's in your bag. How much money do you have in there? And I was like, I might have like $200. I didn't wasn't thinking. He was like, give me that for your hospital bill. And I was about to give it to him, and the nurse pushed me, said, don't do that. He's gonna steal your money. And I was like, huh? I was so out of it. So they were actually going to steal money from me on the way out of the hospital after not treating me. And so I had to go to another hospital, which they perform emergency surgery on me, luckily. And so yeah, some of the damage is due to the fact that I didn't get care, right? But this is the life of anyone who's black in America. I'm sorry. Like, this is what we experience. And white people in America don't understand this. And when you try to explain this to them, and when you try to reach out and make connections and say, hey, some of these policies don't work, other policies may work better, they get offended and they run you out. And so there is a huge race problem in America. It's under the surface. And the GOP is a great reflection of it. The fact that they don't have, as when November rolls around, they're not going to have a single black member in the House of Representatives, proves that they've got that America has a serious race problem. And it's getting worse, because when you listen to people within the Republican Party, they think that black people have it too easy. They think people like myself have had the easy life. They look at me and they're like, man, this guy has it so easy. He's black. Everything was given to him on a platter. I wish I was a black guy where I could have everything for free like him. Like, this is their view of us, right? And when I do like a video like this and explain this is going to receive hate. People are going to be mad at me. They're going, oh, he's lying. He's full of crap. He's just trying to get attention. This is the problem. This is a very racist country. I'm sorry to say it. Now, I'm not saying America is the worst country. I believe America is the greatest country in the world. Okay. I wish I could take part. I wish I could enjoy more of it. I wish I could feel safe in the streets. I could feel like the police would be there to help me. I wish I could live that kind of life. I can't, but I'm happy for what I do have. I'm grateful for it. And I'm fine with that. And I live my life like that. I'm not going to pout. I'm not going to complain. I'm not complaining now. What I'm trying to do is share with the general public why the GOP is so empty when it comes to black representation. Okay. This is why. All politics are local. All politics are local. And until the GOP dips down into black communities and starts to really take serious people like myself, who have had life experience with police and other government institutions that have just been horrendous, until they take note and listen to us and start to adjust and try to represent us, they're always going to lack black representation within their party. So thanks for joining me, guys. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It's on my YouTube channel here. You can follow me on Facebook. You can also go to my website, offramppolitics.com. I do a lot of pieces that are right on there. And yeah, if you subscribe, please tell 3 of your friends and have them tell 3 of their friends to subscribe. I'm trying to build this thing through word of mouth. And hopefully I can do that, because I think messages like this are important for people to hear, not because I need any sympathy. I'm fine. It's because the world needs to know, and the GOP needs to know. Other people need to know that there are serious issues here. Stop playing with the rhetoric. Stop trying to make up stories that fit your political agenda, and really start to talk to the real people with real life experience that really know what's going on a real level. I still support the police, even though I know they will never support me. Okay, I still support them. I still support law enforcement, because I know overall they are good for our communities overall, right? And hopefully one day, maybe because of people like me having these discussions, we can, black communities can start enjoying good policing, right? Where they're protecting our communities and protecting us as individuals. Maybe we can get to that one day. We're not there yet. But I promise you, if the GOP can start touching subjects like this and start taking them serious and understanding that we do have issues that we have to overcome, they're going to start seeing an increase in black support, and they will see an increase in black representation. But until then, we're going to continue to see entire Congresses, House of Representatives, without a single member, a single black member in the GOP, which is really sad.